Zach Wilson is getting benched. Has gone benched by Coach Robert Sala. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm tired. Um,
Yep.
and they're bringing in a guy named Tim Boyle. Have you ever heard of a whiter never gotten in an NFL game before? Probably that he should have gotten into
No.
name before. No, you
Well,
haven't.
I, I mean, no, I haven't. But a close second would be the now backup Trevor Simeon. Like that's pretty.
True.
It's a pretty white name too.
True.
Um, Zach Wilson did not just get demoted; he got demoted to third string
That is the
quarterback,
funny thing, isn't
which
it?
I think
They don't want him
I think
anywhere
that
near that football.
he is completely gone from the Jets after this.
Yeah.
The game against the Bills was the last straw.
And it's
Zach
so
Wilson has just
disappointing.
continued to be so frustrating.
And I actually am happy that we're transitioning into this so that we can talk about it a bit because I remember let's go back a couple of years and start there, right? Think about like what's his name? Crap, Darnold. Why was I forgetting his name? That's a name I shouldn't forget. Sam Darnold, when he was getting coached on this team, like everybody blamed the coaching. Everybody said that sure people there were people who blamed Darnold, but everybody blamed the coaching, right? And then new regime comes in that we have Robert Sala. They bring in Zach Wilson. Everybody's like hyped for Zach Wilson. Going into that draft, the hype for Zach Wilson was wild. Because I remember a couple months before, I don't even
It
know
was
if he was.
pretty.
It was pretty crazy because he
Yeah,
almost came out of
he
nowhere.
rocketed up the
He
draft board.
rocketed up the draft board, yeah. And then,
And over that was the spot that Justin Fields was in like a few months before. Like a lot of people predicted like Lawrence Fields 1-2. Sometimes you got to stick to your instincts before all of this tape
yeah,
starts
well,
coming out after the season is over.
however you want to take that, that's not necessarily the point I'm trying to make. I'm saying that the hype going into Zach Wilson going to the Jets was a lot. There was a new coach who a lot of people liked. He was coming from the 49ers, who had been a very successful team. And yeah, say what you want on that. He had been very successful with the 49ers and he was being given a young quarterback who a lot of people had a lot of hope for based on his athleticism. Like what went wrong here? Like who do you
So okay, so
like do you just blame the
Zach
Jets being
Wilson,
cursed and that they should be lit on fire as a franchise?
no,
Like what do you
I
do?
don't. I just think well, I think Zach Wilson is such an enigma of a player. So watching him, I watched a lot of the Jets Raiders game. That was the recent Sunday night game, and it's just the most. I did fall asleep for part of it because it's Jets Raiders, but I don't think you can blame me for that. But
Yeah.
for what I'm watching of Zach Wilson, it's the same kind of thing that I watched like because I was really into the NFL draft that year. I did watch like some tape on Zach Wilson. The issue with Zach Wilson coming out of college is honestly like the team he's playing for. When you're playing for a team like BYU, um, who has this offense that BYU's offensive line was amazing when Zach Wilson played there. He had so much time to throw. He had an eternity back there. So he can do all of the Zach Wilson things that make you go, oh wow, this kid is crazy when he has a wide open pocket that can help him like dot up people down the field. He's got all the time in the world, and when he's got all the time in the world, he is fantastic because he finds things, he makes stuff work. He's good at just making something out of nothing, but that's when he has time to process it all. And I think that processing is kind of what's been the issue. Um, and I
He
think
probably went to the worst team in the NFL to really set him up properly.
he did because the Jets' offensive line has not been great. They have good players, but they've been dealing with a lot of injuries. I don't even know if he's back now, but I know Mekhi Becton has had like consistent injuries. Elijah
Yeah.
Vera Tucker, I'm pretty sure, was injured at some point. They're all good players, but they're when they're down to their backups, like the Jets' offensive line has not been amazing this year. They've been pretty bad. Um, and and that's the difficult thing is because that's such a huge adjustment from college to the NFL. College to the NFL is already a huge adjustment, anyways. Even if you're coming from a big program in the SEC like Ohio State or whatever, but coming from a smaller school like BYU, like it's night and day in comparison in terms of how quick the game is. And I don't think Zach Wilson has quite been able to get that. I do think there's been quotes. I'll get your thoughts on this, Simon, but like quotes about Aaron Rodgers saying he feels bad because Zach Wilson wasn't supposed to be put in this situation. He was supposed to be able to learn behind him for a couple of years. And obviously, it's not Aaron Rodgers' fault that his Achilles snapped like a rubber band. But
Jesus.
when I don't like Aaron Rodgers.
Jesus.
But to Aaron Rodgers' credit, I do think he's right in terms of as much as I don't like him, the guy's very smart in a football sense, and I do think Zach Wilson could have learned a lot from him if he had a couple years to sit behind him, and I do think they could have served his career really well. So it does kind of suck to see this development in terms of him not being able to sit and develop under Aaron Rodgers and learn so much and being forced into it. But I don't know. Do you think it would have been any different if you see Zach Wilson in a couple of years after sitting behind Aaron Rodgers? Do you think he's still going to flame out, or do you think
1,000 times better? Like, I think that when I look at Zach Wilson, I think that it's the same thing that I just said. It's the same thing with Pickett, honestly. Like, where, like you said, I think that you said that you think for Pickett, giving him the opportunity to play with like a new offensive coordinator who can, help him out a little bit, right? Get him out of his shell, right? I think it's a similar thing with Zach Wilson. Replace that guy with A-Rod being the starter for a season. Give Zach Wilson a chance to just mellow, right? Like, you do not need Zach Wilson to keep burning his confidence into the ground like he has for this season and the years prior, right? I think that it would have been huge for him. Like, truthfully, I think it would have been a game changer. I think A-Rod hit it right on the nail with that one. I think that that really did. Not that he should feel bad for it, obviously. Maybe I disagree with you a little bit on the rubber band thing, but anyway. I think that Zach Wilson probably. I don't think. Obviously, he's not to blame for the position he's in, but you can't let him keep shitting the bed over and over.
You can't let him keep. Like, he was playing so bad, and this Jets team has potential to where you're like, you have to change something. And I think they've just been set up to the point where they has
gotten to the point where, like, you watch him play, and it looks like he's one of the better receivers in the NFL, and he's being wasted having. Having ball. He thought he was going to have A-Rod thrown to him all season, and now he's got Zach Wilson.
Yeah, and like I don't know. I do think the Zach Wilson hate is a little bit overblown at points. But it's just that he can't put it all together. Like, the Jets Raiders game was such a perfect encapsulation of it, to where Zach Wilson, he had this last drive and he looks fantastic. He looks amazing. He has no-look Mahomes type throws. Genuinely a play that if Mahomes made, that's everywhere. And it's like, holy shit, maybe Zach Wilson actually is something.
Maybe
and then
Zach Wilson
comes out
on the football.
Yeah, and then he leads them all the way down the field to potentially win the game, and then it's just boneheaded mistake. He stares down his receiver the entire way.
That's experience, right? Like, you gotta think, putting him behind A-Rod, who's one of the more clutch quarterbacks you could probably name in the last 10 years, that wouldn't have hurt him. Give him another year of I'd imagine his confidence would have gone up playing behind A-Rod. Probably would have taken a couple things, in the cave. He would have came out at the end of it being a much better quarterback. You don't know what's in that cave juice, man.
Yeah.
You don't know what's in that game juice.
I mean, you can see it from Zach Wilson too, because again, that game, he's all over A-Rod on the sideline, just up and down, and he's going over plays with him the entire game. He's trying to soak in as much as he can, and I think Zach Wilson has gotten a lot more mature in that aspect in terms of trying to actively learn. Because I know he had a quote last year where he was basically you feel like you let the defense down, and he was like, no. And that's kind of changed this year. He's taking more accountability.
Yeah, and that's good. And obviously, I think being around a lot of mature people in his life, that's really helped him out as well, obviously. A-Rod, and I can think of a couple other examples, but, he's around a lot of veteran experience in all parts of his life. And I think that's helping him out a lot.
I couldn't possibly know what you were referring to, Seth.
I don't know either. I'm just talking out of my ass. Let's move on. Next segment.